I'll start this video off by stating that unfortunately I could not post any gameplay footage from me playing the game at all. As you might know, Valve tends to be pretty secretive when it comes to their new projects, so they've politely asked people to just not share that much information about the game or the gameplay itself. There's no NDA here, but out of respect for the Valve team and for gamers as a whole, I will refrain from showing any of my footage and or telling you guys too much about the game itself, since what I'm currently playing is technically a developmental build. Once Valve gives the go-ahead, I'll release more gameplay and info on the game. If you don't know, Valve could be considered one of the godfather companies of PC gaming. Praise Gaben. They developed the popular game launcher Steam, along with some of gaming's most famous titles such as the Half-Life series, Counter-Strike, Dota 2, Team Fortress 2, and Portal. They also wait years in between releasing some of their titles, since they're known to be quite the perfectionist. Hence why TFT and Counter-Strike have been popular for over a decade now. So how is the game? I see a lot of comments on videos about the game expressing thoughts such as dead in 3 weeks or will be dead on arrival. I can tell you one thing, this game will absolutely not be dead on arrival, let alone 3 weeks. There's definitely an audience for this game. From what I've seen, the game is targeting almost every market of competitive gamer, whilst not making a mess of what the game is or losing track of its identity. The identity of the game is extremely important, and it definitely has an identity. This game is pretty unique. Without saying too much, the game is going to be stealing some players from very specific games. Every aspect of the game thus far is pretty balanced and extremely fun to play, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a super competitive gamer, but from someone who casually plays competitive games, this is definitely extremely fun for me personally to play. As of right now, there is no official release date for the game, and Valve has not mentioned when the game is expected to be finished at all. However, after playing the build that I have access to, I can say that the product right now could be considered almost finished from someone who is not in the game development field. I can't speak for Valve, so don't quote me on any of this, because I'm sure there's so much more work that needs to be done behind the scenes to ensure a perfectly balanced game. But from the looks of the state of the game, from a gamer, from just a player as is, it appears that the game is in its final stages of development. Again, don't quote me, I could be wrong. The game overall has great pacing and some of the most engaging gameplay I've ever encountered in a competitive space, aside from maybe Counter-Strike and Valorant. In my eyes, the game has the potential to be the next big esport competitive game that everyone's kind of been waiting for, and one that is definitely long overdue. A lot of games recently have been attempting to fill that void. The Finals, XDefiant, and now Shroud's new game, Spectre, which I also played. It's not that fun. Like this video if you want me to make a video about Spectre. You can only play the same game for so many decades until it finally gets boring. Like 10 years later, do you guys really think that people are going to be super interested in Counter-Strike? If they are, holy shit. I mean, people are still playing Call of Duty, so. And you already know that ya boy will be one of the first creators putting in the work on Deadlock. Anyway, the game is really fun, and I really think that there's a lot of people that are going to enjoy this game. There's definitely going to be a lot of people that don't enjoy this game, because the game is not for everyone, that's for sure, but the game is really fun. I can definitely guarantee that. It scratches that itch for something fresh and new within the competitive space, something that we haven't really seen in a long time, and something that a lot of developers have been trying to figure out. Esports has gotten pretty popular, but I noticed myself getting a little bit bored with them. It's not like soccer or football where no matter how many times you watch it, it's going to be entertaining. Video games must change and adapt over time. I'm not saying that new games should come out constantly, but I believe that competitive gamers deserve something that gives them a chance to compete at a level where everyone is starting from ground zero once again, like the early days of League of Legends or the early days of Valorant. We have not had a new game for new gamers, for a new generation of gamers to step into and compete at a high level. Now, telling you guys that I think the game is great is just about all I can do without revealing too much information that could risk my Steam account getting banned or something. But what I can do is speculate based on publicly available information. Like I said before, the game to me appears to be close to finished, so the release date could be way sooner than I'd expect. However, knowing Valve's history and how anal they are at making their games perfect, we might have to wait until 2025 to get a full release. I wouldn't even doubt it if it went till 2026. Even looking online, there's almost no information on the game and no information on the game from Valve themselves. The game as of now is not even on the Steam store. There are some copies of Deadlock going around on the internet somewhere with a version of the game that you can play, but you're kind of stuck in the tutorial mode in those versions of the game, and it is not representative of the final products because it looks like Valve will probably be issuing DMCA takedowns to avoid any more possible leaks. I suggest not seeking out these builds of the game because, like I said before, they will not be representative of the final product. With Gaben being worth over 4 million smackaroons, I think it's safe to say he's going to take his time. Going off topic here for a second, I also want to take a minute to say that more developers need to follow in the footsteps of Valve. Valve's track record is proof that patience and dedication and delicate care towards a game makes a massive difference. Too many developers nowadays go the early access build route. This has been a huge issue. When a developer releases an early access build of a game, it essentially, on release, assassinates the game's future potential for a large player base. Yes, there are unique circumstances like No Man's Sky, but let's be honest, not every developer is going to be as passionate about their game or persistent like Sean and the Hello Games team. They displayed Valve levels of care, and No Man's Sky is unrecognizable today in comparison to what it once was. This also ties into my main point here. Before the early access build version of games became a popular thing, technically you could consider the version of No Man's Sky on release was their early access build, but labeled as a final product. Had Hello Games released the version of the game that we have out today, the player base would be massive in comparison. The bad taste that the original build left in gamers' mouths soured the chances of returning players. In my own personal experience, some of my friends refused to try this game out again because of how bad it was when it came out, even recognizing that the game is probably better now. Some may never give it a chance. It's just the way that life goes. Look at Sons of the Forest 2, for example. The original build of the game was decent, but it was a shallow imitation of the original. A lot of the building mechanics and the central functions of the game were just not there and should have been there, considering they had already made a game that's exactly like this, just with a couple extra new mechanics. Even though the game is finished today, the player count has only decreased over time and most likely will continue to do so. A massive spike once the finished product releases, yes, but not the players who invested in the game from the start, me included. I already played the early access build of the game, and yes, I do kind of want to get into Sons of the Forest, but the likeliness of me reinstalling that game and putting aside all the other cool, actual good games out there that I know are good aside, the likeliness of that is pretty low. Early access builds only kill a game's chances of being great, in my opinion. It only gives players a glance into what could be an amazing experience, and probably will be, but by the time that it is, the interest will have waned. I do understand that some developers must take donations or release this type of version of the game to get people hooked so that they can have funding and start their company, but at the end of the day, what you were saying to the public is that you are going to finish the game later and it will be amazing by the time it's finished. Take too long and people will lose interest. Don't build the game based on the promises and people will be angry at you. Maybe not angry, but they certainly will not trust what you say. Let's look at one more game, for example, and I know I'm not talking about Deadlock anymore, but this is kind of important. Hunt Showdown is one of the most unique extraction shooters I've ever played, and I do even plan on releasing a whole video about this. No, this game is not in early access, but another common mistake that devs make is falling into the greed trap. Skins, skins, skins. Buy my battle pass. Hey, there's a new hero, you should buy it. Hey, have you tried purchasing the premium currency so you can get the new hero or the battle pass? What? Add more content to the game? But what about all these heroes and skins? We're way too busy making those to make a new map. Sarcasm aside, my point is that when a dev team is generating thousands and possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you would think that they have plenty of resources to create new content frequently. And they could come at us with the excuse that they're not making enough money, hence why they're making all the skins so that they can make new content. But with all the money that you have made from all the skins you have sold thus far, why are you wasting your resources paying your developer team to develop more skins instead of content? Yes, this video was initially about Deadlock, but I believe I should also end the video with a message. Stop trusting developers wholeheartedly, even if they have delivered good products in the past. I truly believe that we need to hold developers to a higher standard, and I'm not excluding Valve from this. It's time that we go back to the days of devs caring about their projects rather than the money it will make them in the end. Because at the end of the day, if you care about your game, have patience, and release a fully finished product, you will see more than just money come your way. Thank you all for watching. I hope I earned your subscription today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.